There is a peculiar experience, known to few, yet whispered through the pages of history, the quiet, relentless pursuit of a soul by something far greater than itself. If you have ever felt that the events of your life do not happen at random, that a silent script is unfolding in which you are both actor and audience, then you may be closer to the truth than you realize. The first sign is discomfort, but not the common sort. It is the restlessness that lingers even when all seems well. You may have once found joy in ordinary pursuits, yet now they leave you empty. The life that once fit you so well has become ill-fitting, as though you are being called to something beyond what your hands can grasp. Another mark is the frequent disruptions in your plans. Paths you once walked without trouble now seem littered with obstacles. But what if these were not misfortunes, but divine redirections? The closed doors, the unforeseen delays, perhaps they are not accidents, but rather the deliberate hands of the unseen, guiding you where you would not have gone on your own. Then there is the loneliness, not the loneliness of mere isolation, but a peculiar sense of being set apart. Conversations that once engaged you now seem shallow. You sense a separation, as if unseen forces are pulling you away from the noise of the world and into a place of deeper reflection. You do not fully belong to the crowd anymore, because you were never meant to. But perhaps the strongest evidence is the burden of truth. It does not come as a whisper, but as a weight pressing upon your heart. You begin to see what others overlook. The illusions of life, the falsehoods of fleeting pleasures, and the emptiness of worldly pursuits become unmistakably clear. The truth stands before you, undeniable, and you cannot turn away from it without a cost. Yet, for all these signs, you may feel unworthy. You see your flaws, your inadequacies, and you wonder why, of all people, you would be chosen. But it is precisely in weakness that divine strength is revealed. You were never called because of your sufficiency, but because of a greater purpose that is yet to unfold. Finally, you find yourself drawn toward realities that cannot be seen with the eye, but only known with the soul. A transformation begins not in an instant, but in steady, unshakable steps. You are being prepared, shaped, and refined for something beyond your understanding. If these words find a home in your heart, then know this: you are not lost. You are being chosen. And though the road ahead may not be easy, it is leading you to a purpose greater than you could have ever imagined. There is an odd misconception that being chosen by God comes with immediate peace and an overwhelming sense of purpose. People imagine a moment of divine revelation where all doubts vanish and the path ahead is illuminated with clarity. But the reality is often the opposite. The first sign of being chosen is rarely a feeling of assurance. Instead, it is a profound sense of discomfort. This discomfort is not ordinary unease. It is not the kind that arises from a bad day or a stressful situation. Rather, it is a deep, unshakable restlessness, a quiet but persistent stirring within the soul. It manifests as an awareness that something in your life is no longer fitting the way it once did. What once satisfied you now feels empty. The conversations that once thrilled you now seem trivial. The places you once found joy in no longer bring the same fulfillment. You may try to ignore it, to shake it off like a passing mood, but it lingers. No matter how much you distract yourself with routine, entertainment, or even ambition, it returns like an echo, growing louder over time. It is as if a part of you knows something your mind has not yet understood, that you are being drawn towards something greater, something beyond the life you have always known. This restlessness often begins subtly. It starts with a vague sense that you are meant for something more, though you cannot define what that more is. There is an unseen weight pressing on your spirit, a whisper at the back of your mind telling you that you cannot remain where you are. You may find yourself questioning things you once accepted without a second thought. What is the meaning of success? Why do certain habits no longer bring the same pleasure? Why does the life you have built feel increasingly hollow? One of the most confusing aspects of this discomfort is that it often comes when everything seems to be going well. You may have achieved your goals, reached a level of stability, or surrounded yourself with people who care for you, yet something still feels incomplete. It is as if you are wearing a garment that no longer fits, one that once suited you but has now become unbearably tight. This internal unease is not a punishment, nor is it a sign of failure. It is a calling, a divine invitation to step beyond the familiar and into something unknown. Many resist it, fearing what change might require of them. The unknown is always intimidating, and the idea of leaving behind the comfort of certainty can feel overwhelming. Yet, the discomfort persists, not to torment you, but to push you forward. At times, this calling may feel like an ache in the soul, an unexplainable longing for something you cannot name. You may try to fill the void with distractions, busyness, material success, relationships, but nothing quite satisfies. This is because what you are searching for cannot be found in the things of this world. It is a hunger for the divine, a longing for a purpose that exists beyond human ambition. Some experience this discomfort as a growing dissatisfaction with the superficial aspects of life. They begin to see through the illusions they once accepted without question. The pursuit of status, wealth, or pleasure no longer holds the same appeal. What once seemed meaningful now appears fleeting, as if they were chasing shadows rather than substance. For others, this calling comes with a heightened sensitivity to deeper truths. They begin to notice the suffering around them in ways they never did before. They feel a weight in their hearts for the brokenness of the world, an urge to do something, to make a difference, to respond to a need they can no longer ignore. This is often the first step in realizing that they are being chosen not for a life of comfort, but for a life of purpose. But why does this process begin with discomfort? Because growth always requires disruption. A seed does not sprout in the comfort of its shell. It must break apart to become what it was meant to be. A caterpillar does not emerge as a butterfly without first enduring the confinement of a cocoon. In the same way, those who are called by God must first experience a breaking, a disruption of the familiar to make room for transformation. This is why those who are chosen often feel a sense of disconnection from their past selves. They may not fully understand what is happening, but they know they cannot go back to the way things were. The old ways no longer fit. The old desires no longer satisfy. The old comforts no longer bring peace. There is a crucial truth to understand here. Discomfort is not the enemy. It is a signpost. It is evidence that you are being drawn towards something greater. Those who are never called never feel this stirring. Those who remain where they are forever content with the temporary. But for those who are chosen, contentment with the ordinary is no longer an option. This phase of discomfort is not the destination, but the beginning. It is the invitation to step forward, to ask the difficult questions, to seek answers that cannot be found in the noise of the world. It is the first unmistakable sign that God is calling you towards something beyond yourself. Life, when left to its natural course, follows a rhythm, a sequence of expectations, plans, and familiar routines. But those who are chosen by God often find that their path is anything but predictable. There is a pattern of interruptions, an unsettling series of detours that seem, at first glance, to be obstacles rather than divine orchestration. These disruptions rarely come with clear explanations. They arrive unannounced, dismantling carefully laid plans and overturning expectations. A door that seemed wide open suddenly slams shut. A career path that once felt secure crumbles into uncertainty. A relationship that appeared unshakable dissolves without warning. These are not mere coincidences. They are the unmistakable marks of a higher hand at work. There is an unsettling nature to divine disruptions. They rarely make sense in the moment. A person may find themselves asking, "Why is this happening to me?" They may feel as though they are being pushed off course, sent in directions they never intended to go. But over time, patterns emerge, patterns that reveal that these interruptions were not random at all. History is rich with examples of individuals who were redirected, not by their own choosing, but by circumstances beyond their control. A man loses his position only to find himself in a role far greater than he ever imagined. A woman is denied an opportunity only to later realize that what she had pursued was far beneath what she was meant to do. When the dust of disappointment settles, the truth becomes clear. They were being guided, not abandoned. Divine disruptions often come at moments of comfort. Just when a person begins to feel settled, secure, and certain of their path, something shifts. This is because comfort, while pleasant, is not the environment in which transformation takes place. Growth requires movement, and movement often comes through the unsettling force of change. These disruptions are often misinterpreted as failures. A denied opportunity, a financial struggle, an unexpected move at first, they seem like setbacks. But those who look closer, who dare to see beyond the immediate frustration, begin to notice a different narrative unfolding. What felt like a failure was, in fact, a redirection. What seemed like a closed door was a safeguard from a path that was never meant to be walked. There is a particular frustration that comes with these disruptions. They rarely provide immediate clarity. Unlike human plans, which come with timelines and explanations, divine interventions often require trust without understanding. A person may be left standing in uncertainty, wondering why the road before them has suddenly disappeared. But what feels like being lost is, in reality, a call to surrender, to let go of personal agendas and step into the unknown. One of the defining marks of divine disruptions is repetition. It does not happen just once. It happens again and again until the person begins to recognize the pattern. There is a lesson in this. Resistance does not prevent the change, it only prolongs the process. The more one clings to their own plans, the more painful the detours become. But the moment surrender occurs, the path begins to make sense. Some divine disruptions come in the form of loss. A friendship fades, a community shifts, a once promising opportunity disappears. In the moment, these losses feel cruel. But in time, a person begins to see that what was removed was never meant to remain. Some relationships, though comfortable, are not meant to last. Some opportunities, though appealing, would have led to destruction. What was taken was not a punishment, but a protection. Other disruptions come through discomfort. A job that once felt fulfilling begins to feel unbearable. A place that once felt like home no longer feels right. A passion that once burned brightly begins to dim. This is not a sign of failure, but of preparation. The discomfort is a signal that change is coming, that a new path is about to unfold. There is also the disruption of delays. A person may feel as though they are ready for the next step, only to find themselves waiting. Doors that should open remain closed. Plans that should progress remain stagnant. But divine delays are never wasted time. They serve a purpose, often preparing a person for what they are about to step into. The waiting season is where refinement happens, where unseen preparations are made. Perhaps the most confusing disruption is the unexpected calling. A person who has spent years pursuing one direction suddenly feels drawn to something entirely different. A career shift, a change in priorities, an unexplainable pull towards something unfamiliar. These are the moments where divine purpose begins to take shape. They require faith, because stepping into a new calling often means leaving behind what once felt safe. For those who are being chosen, divine disruptions are unavoidable. They are not random, nor are they punishments. They are invitations, urgent calls to move beyond human plans and into something far greater. Those who embrace them will find that what once seemed like chaos was, in fact, divine order in disguise. There is a loneliness that is ordinary, born from isolation, from the absence of companionship, from being misunderstood. But then there is another kind, one far stranger and more difficult to explain, a loneliness that does not come from being physically alone, but from an unseen separation that takes place within the soul. Those who are being chosen by God often experience this peculiar loneliness, not as a punishment, but as a sign of transformation. It begins subtly, as a quiet shift in perspective. The conversations that once entertained now feel shallow. The friendships that once felt inseparable begin to feel distant. The places that once brought joy now seem empty. There is no visible change, and yet everything feels different. This is because the person is being called to a new way of seeing, a new way of understanding, one that no longer fits within the confines of their old world. This loneliness does not mean rejection, but rather separation. It is not a withdrawal from people, but a realization that one no longer belongs entirely to the crowd. Others continue in their familiar ways, content with the world as it is. But for the one who is being chosen, there is an increasing inability to pretend. The laughter that once came easily now feels forced. The distractions that once entertained now feel meaningless. It is as if an unseen force is pulling them away, not out of arrogance, but out of necessity. There is a grief that accompanies this change. It is the grief of realizing that certain friendships will not last, that certain bonds will loosen, that the things once treasured no longer hold the same value. It is not that love is lost, but that priorities shift. The longing for deeper conversations, for meaningful connections, for something beyond the surface begins to grow. But not everyone is willing to go deeper. Not everyone is ready to step away from the noise. And so, the chosen one often finds themselves standing alone, watching as the world moves on without them. The peculiarity of this loneliness is that it cannot be explained to those who have never felt it. It is not simply the absence of company, but the presence of an unseen calling that makes ordinary interactions feel foreign. There is an increasing awareness of a greater reality, a stirring in the heart that cannot be ignored. The mind begins to grasp things beyond the physical, beyond the temporary, and with this awareness comes a silent distancing from what once felt so familiar. This loneliness is often misunderstood. Others may perceive it as arrogance, as if the one experiencing it thinks they are better than those around them. But it is not pride, it is a quiet recognition that the things that once connected them to others no longer hold the same weight. It is the realization that they are walking a path that not everyone will understand, a path that requires them to let go of what they once clung to. There is a tension in this separation. The heart longs to stay where it is comfortable, to hold on to the past, to resist the inevitable shift. But the pull is too strong. The more one tries to fit into old spaces, the more out of place they feel. The more one attempts to hold on to past friendships, the more distant they seem. It is a slow, painful detachment, not from love, but from the version of oneself that no longer exists. The solitude of this experience is not without purpose. It serves as a time of refinement, a season of learning to listen to the voice of God without the noise of the crowd. It is in this loneliness that clarity begins to emerge, that direction becomes clearer, that the distractions of the world lose their grip. Those who are chosen are often called into seasons of separation, not to remain alone forever, but to be prepared for the path ahead. This loneliness is often accompanied by a desire for deeper relationships. The soul craves connection, but not just any connection. It longs for something real, something meaningful, something aligned with its purpose. Superficial relationships no longer satisfy. The heart begins to seek out others who understand, others who have walked the same road, others who have also felt the quiet pull of something greater. There is an undeniable pain in this process. It is painful to outgrow what was once cherished. It is painful to feel distant from people who were once close. It is painful to be misunderstood, to be seen as different, to walk a path that others do not see. But this pain is not without meaning. It is the pain of transformation, of stepping into something new, of leaving behind what no longer serves the journey ahead. The world may not understand this loneliness, but those who have experienced it know that it is not emptiness, it is preparation. It is not rejection, it is redirection. It is not abandonment, it is a sacred calling to something beyond the ordinary. Those who endure it will find that they are not truly alone, but rather being drawn towards something, someone who has been waiting for them all along. There is a weight that comes with seeing things others overlook. Those who are being chosen by God often experience a shift in their perception, an increasing awareness of truth that cannot be ignored. This truth is not just intellectual knowledge, but a deep, undeniable recognition of realities that were once hidden. The world remains the same, but the way they see it is forever changed. This awareness does not arrive gently. It comes as a disruption, an intrusion upon the familiar, forcing the individual to question everything they once accepted without thought. What once seemed normal now appears empty. The ambitions that once fueled their desires now seem meaningless. The systems that govern the world, the values that society upholds, the pursuits that consume people's lives, none of it carries the same weight anymore. This is not a burden that can be easily shared. When a person begins to see truth in a way others do not, they find themselves speaking a language that few understand. Conversations that once felt effortless now require restraint. They notice what others ignore. They recognize deception where others see nothing wrong. They feel a weight pressing upon their heart, an urgency to open the eyes of those around them. But not everyone wants to see. Not everyone is ready to listen. This burden is often isolating. The individual may feel as though they are standing on the shore, watching as others are swept away by waves they do not even recognize. They try to warn them, to call out, to reveal what is so painfully clear, but the response is often indifference, or worse, hostility. People do not like having their illusions shattered. They resist change, even when the truth is evident. The burden of truth is not just about seeing what is wrong in the world. It is also about recognizing the deeper realities of existence. The temporary nature of life becomes overwhelmingly clear. The distractions that consume most people's days, material success, entertainment, status, begin to look like shadows, fleeting and insubstantial. There is an aching awareness that time is short, that eternity is real, that so many are asleep to the things that truly matter. There is a tension between knowing the truth and living in a world that does not acknowledge it. The individual cannot unsee what they have seen, cannot return to ignorance even if they wanted to. They carry this knowledge wherever they go, feeling its weight in every conversation, every interaction, every moment of silence. They watch as people chase illusions, as they build their lives on foundations that will one day crumble, as they place their hope in things that will never satisfy. This awareness brings responsibility. To know truth is to be accountable to it. It demands action, transformation, a different way of living. Those who are being chosen often feel an internal conviction that they cannot continue as they once did. The entertainment they once enjoyed now feels empty. The habits they once indulged now feel shallow. The way they speak, the way they think, the way they spend their time, it all begins to shift. But with this responsibility comes struggle. The weight of truth can be exhausting. There is a deep longing to wake others up, to shake them from their complacency, to open their eyes. But truth cannot be forced upon anyone. People must be willing to see it for themselves. This is one of the hardest lessons for those who carry this burden, to realize that they can only share truth, not control how others receive it. There is also an internal battle that comes with this burden. The more a person sees, the more they are tempted to despair. They see injustice, deception, and suffering on a scale they never noticed before. The temptation to become overwhelmed, to feel powerless in the face of so much brokenness, is strong. But this is where faith must step in. The burden of truth is not given so that a person may be crushed by it, but so that they may be transformed by it. This burden is also a gift, though it rarely feels like one. It strips away illusions, revealing what is real, what is lasting, what is worth pursuing. It redirects desires away from the temporary and toward the eternal. It is a painful process, but a necessary one. To see truth is to be set apart, to be prepared for a greater purpose, to be called into something beyond the ordinary. This is why those who carry this burden often feel a deep sense of urgency. They understand that truth is not something to be passively held, but actively lived. They feel the weight of knowing what others do not, the responsibility of sharing what they have seen, the call to live in a way that reflects the reality they now understand. It is not an easy burden. It isolates, it challenges, it demands much. But it is also a sign that a person is being chosen, not for comfort, but for purpose. A sign that they are being called not to fit into the world, but to stand apart from it. A sign that they are not alone in their burden, but guided by the one who placed it upon them. There is a restlessness that is common to all people, the desire for something new, the craving for excitement, the dissatisfaction that comes when life becomes monotonous. But then there is another kind of restlessness, one far deeper and more persistent. It does not come from boredom or a lack of fulfillment in ordinary pursuits. It is an unshakable stirring within the soul, an inner discontent that refuses to be silenced. This is not a passing feeling, but a constant undercurrent pressing upon the heart and mind, making it impossible to settle into a life of ease. This restlessness is not relieved by distraction. It does not go away with entertainment, success, or even moments of happiness. A person can be surrounded by everything they once thought they wanted, and yet this feeling remains a silent but urgent whisper that they are meant for something more. It is a dissatisfaction that does not stem from ingratitude, but from the awareness that they have not yet stepped into the fullness of what they were made for. It is a strange experience to carry this kind of restlessness. Others may look at their life and see no reason for discontent. They may have security, opportunities, relationships, and yet, inside, they feel a pull toward something they cannot yet define. It is as though they are standing in a room that is too small, a space that no longer fits who they are becoming. They try to ignore it, to push it aside, but the more they resist, the stronger it becomes. This restlessness is often misunderstood. Those who experience it may be told to simply be content, to appreciate what they have, to stop searching for something beyond the present moment. But this is not an ordinary longing. It is a divine discomfort. It is not about chasing after temporary excitement or avoiding responsibility. It is about being prepared for movement, being stirred out of complacency, being made ready for something greater. There is a refining that happens in this restlessness. It strips away false contentment, revealing where a person has been settling for less than they were created for. It exposes misplaced priorities, calling attention to the ways they have tried to fill their soul with things that will never satisfy. It forces them to confront their true desires, to ask themselves what they are truly seeking, and to recognize that no earthly thing will ever be enough. This restlessness often comes in waves. Some days it is quiet, a subtle awareness that something is shifting. Other days it is almost unbearable, an aching in the soul that demands attention. It comes with an urgency that cannot be ignored, a sense that time is slipping away, that they are being called to move, to act, to step into something unknown. The longer they resist, the more restless they become. For some, this restlessness manifests as a sudden dissatisfaction with their current circumstances. A job that once seemed fulfilling now feels meaningless. A routine that once felt comfortable now feels restrictive. A place that once felt like home now feels temporary. It is as though an invisible hand is loosening their grip on everything they once held onto, preparing them to step into something new. For others, the restlessness comes as a deep hunger for meaning. They find themselves drawn to deeper conversations, searching for wisdom, seeking out people who understand the longing they cannot put into words. They become more aware of the emptiness in the world around them, more attuned to the things that truly matter. The trivial things that once occupied their mind no longer hold their attention. There is a tension in this experience. The heart longs for clarity, for direction, for a clear path forward. But often, the restlessness comes before the answers. It is a stirring, a preparation, a disruption that forces a person to rely on faith rather than sight. They are not given a roadmap, only a conviction that they cannot stay where they are. This restlessness is not meant to torment, but to awaken. It is a sign that a person is being called higher, that they are being prepared for something beyond what they have known. It is a breaking away from what is comfortable, a disruption of stagnation, a divine nudge toward growth and purpose. Those who feel it deeply may not yet know where it is leading, but they cannot deny that it is real. Some try to silence this restlessness by filling their lives with distractions, busyness, entertainment, temporary pleasures, but these things only offer momentary relief. The restlessness always returns, stronger than before, because it is not meant to be ignored. It is meant to be followed. It is the voice of a higher calling, urging the person to step beyond the ordinary and into the extraordinary. Those who embrace this restlessness will find that it is not there to harm them, but to guide them. It is not a sign of something being wrong, but of something being set in motion. It is a sacred discomfort, a whisper of destiny, a signal that they were never meant to remain where they are. The restlessness will not fade until they step into the purpose for which they were created. There is a peculiar pattern in the lives of those who are being chosen by God. They do not move through life with ease, untouched by hardship. In fact, they often face unusual challenges, circumstances that seem almost deliberately designed to test them, to stretch them, to push them beyond their limits. These trials are not random, nor are they meaningless. They are the marks of preparation, shaping the person into who they must become. These challenges often come in waves, striking at unexpected moments. Just when they begin to feel settled, something disrupts their peace. Just when they think they have gained stability, something shifts beneath them. It is as if every time they try to build a life of comfort, something intervenes, forcing them to rely on something greater than themselves. This is not a punishment but a form of training. It is a stripping away of self-sufficiency, a breaking down of illusions, a call to depend not on their own strength, but on the one who is guiding them. There are moments when these trials seem unfair. Others move through life with ease, their paths free from struggle, their plans unfolding without resistance. But for those who are chosen, the road is rarely smooth. They face setbacks that appear unnecessary, opposition that seems relentless, burdens that feel too heavy to bear. There is an unseen hand allowing these difficulties not to destroy them, but to refine them, to strengthen them, to prepare them for something they cannot yet see. With these challenges, however, comes an undeniable pattern of unseen protection. Just when it seems like they will be overwhelmed, something intervenes. Just when all hope appears lost, a door opens. Just when they are at their breaking point, an unexpected provision arrives. Time and time again, they face what looks like disaster, only to find themselves mysteriously carried through. There is no explanation except that they are being watched over, guarded, led through the storm by an invisible force that does not allow them to fall completely. This protection does not always come in the way they expect. It does not always prevent hardship, but it does ensure survival. They may lose things they once thought they could not live without, only to later realize those losses were necessary. They may be denied opportunities they desperately wanted, only to discover that something far greater was waiting for them. They may be pushed out of situations where they felt secure, only to find themselves led into something far beyond what they could have planned for themselves. There is a mystery in this protection. It is not the absence of struggle, but the presence of grace within the struggle. It is not a guarantee of an easy life, but an assurance that, no matter what happens, they are being led towards something greater. The storms come, but they do not destroy. The fire burns, but it does not consume. The path is hard, but they are never truly alone. Those who experience this pattern begin to recognize it over time. They look back and see the times they should have been destroyed but were not. They remember the moments when they had no way forward, only to find an unexpected door opening at just the right moment. They recall the people who were placed in their lives at the perfect time, the warnings that came before disasters, the inner promptings that led them away from unseen dangers. The weight of these experiences is both humbling and awe-inspiring. It is humbling because they realize they are not in control, that their strength is not their own, that something beyond them is orchestrating their path. It is awe-inspiring because they see the fingerprints of God in places they never expected, turning pain into purpose, loss into gain, struggle into transformation. There are times when this unseen protection is misunderstood. From the outside, their lives may look chaotic, unstable, unpredictable. Others may question why they face so many obstacles, why their journey is so difficult. But those who have walked this path know that every challenge has been part of their preparation. They see how each hardship has shaped them, refined them, strengthened them. They understand that they are not being abandoned, they are being prepared. This preparation is necessary because their calling is not ordinary. Those who are chosen cannot remain untested, unshaken, unchanged. They must be molded through fire, trained through trials, strengthened through suffering. They must learn to stand when others fall, to trust when others doubt, to keep moving forward even when the way is unclear. There is a quiet confidence that develops in those who recognize this pattern in their lives. They no longer panic when difficulties arise, because they have seen too much to believe in coincidences. They no longer fear the unknown because they have learned that every closed door has led to something better. They no longer resist the process because they understand that they are being shaped for a purpose beyond their comprehension. Unusual challenges and unseen protection go hand in hand. The greater the trials, the greater the destiny. The heavier the burden, the stronger the foundation. The more relentless the opposition, the more certain the calling. Those who are chosen will always walk a road that others do not understand, but they will also experience a level of guidance, provision, and supernatural intervention that others do not see. They may not always understand why things happen the way they do, but they know that they are being led. They may not always see the way forward, but they know they are not walking alone. They may face trials that seem impossible, but they know that they are being prepared for something far beyond what they could have imagined. And in the end, they will look back and see that every hardship was part of a greater plan. Every challenge was a step toward their true purpose, and every moment of unseen protection was a reminder that they were never forsaken.